Okay, here's a story that just came out today about a colossal cyber attack. It said every Louisiana driver's license holder exposed in colossal cyber attack. Let's see what this was about. Okay, so it links it to a Russian-linked group that claims responsibility for the hack, which targeted Move It software, also used by the BBC and British Airways. Now, if you don't know what Move It is like or essentially a file transfer software where you're supposed to be able to transfer small files, large files, a lot of files very easily. So it says secure file transfer and automation software for the enterprise. So guessing that the Louisiana DOT was using Move It to transfer some files that had the licenses information for all of the customers that were in the database. Okay, so right on their page, they got a product advisory, Move It transfer and Move It cloud vulnerability. This is the latest vulnerabilities that Move It has. And if I go over here and see a knowledge base article, let's see how they got hacked here. All right, so it says here that Move It has discovered a Move It vulnerability that could lead to escalated privileges and potential unauthorized access to the environment. If you're a Move It customer, it's extremely important that you take immediate action. Okay, what do you got to do? In progress, Move It transfer versions released before 2021, blah, 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 blah. A SQL injection vulnerability has been identified in the Move It transfer web application. That could allow unauthenticated attacker to gain unauthorized access to the Move It transfer database. An attacker could submit a crafted payload to a Move It transfer application endpoint, which could result in modification and disclosure of the Move It database content. One of the things I recommend when you're moving large files from a database is, number one, on top of the inherent security measures that are built into the program, I would say also encrypt the data that you're sending. Just encrypt it, just put it in a zip file or some type of encrypted folder, so it's double encrypted. So it's encrypted by Move It, and it's also encrypted by whatever encryption you put on it that's out of band from this Move It software. That way you're protected. They were relying too much on the Move It software to do all of the security when it was transferring. That seems like what happened. I'm just speculating here, but that's a possibility. So the Move It firewalls. So if they did a SQL injection, so let's go see what a SQL injection is. SQL injection, if you don't know already, is one of the top ways that websites are compromised. But SQL, oh yeah, here it is, injection. So it's one of the top 10. This is back in 2021. Injection slides down third position. And if we click on injection here, this accounts for SQL injection. So it is definitely one of the top ways. Were they not testing? Did they not do a pen test on this, or did they find it? I mean, how did the Russian hackers find this vulnerability before they even published this vulnerability? So this was definitely, I would say it's got the smell of a targeted attack. Like they wanted this information or wanted to just see if they can do it. There's probably like another thing that happened, not even with Louisiana. Who wants Louisiana driver's license anyway? What can I do with those? I don't know, but I'm sure somebody has some use for it. All right, so that's what happened. There was a SQL injection vulnerability. It allowed unauthenticated access for attacker to gain access to Move It transfer database. An attacker could submit a crafted payload to a Move It transfer application endpoint, which could result in modification and disclosure of the Move It database content. Okay. So it seems some type of way that you could actually use Move It to actually store database information. Yeah, so it seems like you could, can you store data directly in Move It? Let's go see. Move It, what do they have? What kind of products do they have? So solutions, products, this was in their Move It product. Manage transfers, automate workflow, deploy anywhere, flexibility, integrate with any system via MuleSoft connector, REST, Java API. Okay, so yeah, it does look like that you possibly could, with the help of an API, connect directly to Move It and store data to Move It and then move it around that way. And as you can see, like encryption, all this encryption, it's activity tracking, enable compliance with regulations, PCI, HIPAA, GDPR, doesn't matter. Everybody who gets hacked has all these acronyms, has all these compliance regulations, but it still doesn't matter, because I think people are worried too much about these compliance regulations, and it's not adaptive enough. It's not fast enough. It can't react in real time on what could actually happen. And it's just using this framework where you're using like a checklist and saying this is good, this is good, this is good. but you're not digging deep into the programs that are being deployed and saying, oh, this is the way to do it. So it's very, very silly sometimes how these big solutions with all of these regulations around it still get hacked in the biggest way. I mean, so what I would recommend, at the end of the day, you need to have a regular team that doesn't care anything about compliance. It doesn't care about any regulations. It's just a red team, and they're just looking for the vulnerabilities. Forget about what you got. They're just attacking it. And a lot of big organizations, they already have this. They have these red teams. They have these third-party pen testers come in and just pen test. I'm concerned is why they didn't have, I mean, a SQL injection vulnerability is very common. And if you look at OWASP, they have a prevention cheat sheet. This is not going to be good for MOVEit customers for sure. I mean, this is going to lose some, so they're going to lose credibility. People who are using it's going to freak out. But what I recommend that you do is double encrypt it. Even if they do get the suitcase full of money, they can't even open it. That kind of thing. Double encryption. MOVEit's encrypted on one side, you encrypt it, whatever you're sending through MOVEit. Don't trust these third-party cloud providers, cloud SaaS products with your data, especially if the data's PII. You have to double encrypt it. It's just stupid not to. It takes a little extra effort, takes a little bit more process, but the risk, if something does happen, it's gonna take a big chunk out. It's gonna be bad. So some of the things that you can do: primary defenses, use prepared statements. You can use properly constructed stored procedures, allow list input validation, escaping all user supplied input, SQL injection flaws. Select account balance from user. So a statement is essentially just a question to the computer, a request to the computer. And if you make a question to the computer that it doesn't recognize or doesn't know how to respond to it, sometimes you can get it to respond in a way that will give you additional information that was not, the system was not designed to give you the information. So it's called a SQL injection flaw. Yeah, at the end of the day, double encryption can be one way to mitigate this. If the hackers got there, that's why I'm a proponent for honeypots. I'm a proponent for things like double encryption, honeypots. Let's see what these folks are doing, because that is your most prized possession. That is your most crown jewel data that you have is that. It's the person's PII. This is what's going to put you in the headlines. It's going to put you on the front page back over here of The Guardian, talking about every Louisiana driver's license holder exposed in colossal cyber attack. I mean, do you want the headline for your company? I don't think so.